If you have ever looked at the Premier Lacrosse League and thought, wait, where do these teams even live? Why are they traveling every weekend? And how is this league actually making any money? You are not alone, because the PLL is not built like other leagues. It tours, but it has home markets. It is one league company, but it has clubs with their own identities, their coaches, roster strategies. It plays a normal field game, but it also has a totally different fast format that is tied into the Olympics. And if you are coming from box lacrosse like me, it can feel like a whole new language you're trying to learn. So today I'm doing PLL 101, but not the lazy version. We're going full deep dive, how the league started and how it works, how the schedule works, how the rules differ, how rosters are built, what players actually get paid, what the media rights look like, and who the major coaches are and why they matter. Plus, I've got 2 quick news hits, including the Dawson Theede trade and an update on Syracuse attackman Trey Deere. Let's get right into it. This could be a busy episode. Welcome back. My name is Jake McDonald. I'm Anything Lacrosse, and this is a game that never sits still. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you guys like about these episodes. Let me know what you don't like or what you want to see in here. And let me know if you like this new format where I'm doing one box, one field lacrosse podcast a week. We'll follow all the socials as well and join the Discord. The Discord, to be honest, there's some great conversations in there. There's only about 100 people in there. I went hard on it at first to get it filled. I got to start kind of trying to recruit more people. I'm going to have to do another contest to try to fill it more up because I want more fans in there, fan engagement. But there's some really good media people in there that put their 2 cents in there. I appreciate anything they do put in there. In today's episode, we're going to be going through a whole deep dive into the PLL. I know a very little bit about the PLL just to start off with this. So I watched the finals last year, the final game. It had like over 800,000, or I think about 750, 800,000 viewers during that game. Huge numbers. We'll talk about that as we go on here. There's an old saying there's a saying that I heard. I don't know who coined this, so I never want to take credit for it because it's not my saying, but I do reiterate it over and over and over again. It is, field is a gentleman's game, boxes control chaos. At first, as a casual fan, I'm going to be fully transparent here. I found field very boring. Same as sixes, I was already kind of into box at that point, so I think when I started watching sixes, it was more I already understood lacrosse a little bit more than I did originally. With field, though, I think I watched field even before, like most people know about field, right? We've seen field around. So I've actually watched field, I think, before I even watched box. So I didn't really I found it a little bit slow, all that kind of stuff, not enough contact, right? Then I found box, and obviously this is a whole different story that pulled me right in. But now when I watch field, I can actually watch it from a more understanding of lacrosse. And I do think it's a really interesting game to watch. It's fun to watch. And I can't wait to actually watch college. Like college starts next week and I'm pumped. But PLL is starting up in, I think the end of February. They're having their sixes tournament. So let's do a deep dive into the PLL today. And we're going to go just like we did in college. And we're going to go through all the teams. The website, I want to start off by the PLL. The website for the PLL is amazing from what I just quickly a little bit. We're going to go through it today. I'm going to go through in it during this episode. But it is an amazing thing. All the rosters are there, all the stats, everything. This league's only been around since 2019. We're going to go into that as well. I like to always do the history of the leagues as well when I'm covering this stuff. So I have a good vast knowledge. This is how I got so knowledgeable about the NLL and the box lacrosse, because I've done these deep dives into every team. I went through, if you go back through my content on TikTok, shout out to the PLL right away for having an amazing website. The NLL can learn off their website. So this is the thing I think about watching the PLL too that I'm going to get into is there's stuff that the PLL is doing that the NLL isn't doing, that I think they could steal off the PLL in the sense the sixes tournament, for example. What a great tournament to throw in there. Even if it's not your top level guys, you're still trying to get exposure to sixes. You have to get the idea wrapped around your head of sixes. You just do, because it's the Olympic game. And that is going to grow the lacrosse as a sport. And then once you're in lacrosse, it's easy to go into a more of a niche thing like box lacrosse, or even for field or sixes. So I'll be going through the history of the PLL, how it happened, what happened to it. We'll be going through all the teams, all the rosters, the money. Money is always funny. Nobody wants to talk about it, but it's such an important part of life. And I'm very a numbers guy, and I'm a very this makes sense, this doesn't make sense. So I love when I know not all the numbers are going to be out here for the PLL as well, which I'm against. I think if you're going to get a professional league, I think that everything should be transparent, just like it is in other sports. And if you want to be a major league, you have to act like the other major leagues do. And this is part of it. It's just part of it. Everybody knows these athletes they're not lacrosse specifically, but these guys make, an abnormally amount of money. Most people aren't going to work and making hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to go to work every year. Athletes get to play a percentage of the year and get, a pretty good amount of money to play a child game at the end of the day, right? Creators game's a little bit different, but it's at the end of the day, it's a game, not lacrosse, but just sports in general. You're playing a sport and you're getting millions of dollars for it, not lacrosse. Talking about different sport right now. To know what everybody's making and also how a team runs, how much it costs to make them run. And it just gives, if you're making a certain amount over another player that's making not as much, like if some guy's making K a year and you're making $300,000 a year and your guys are putting up the same level of points, it's just something as a talking point that the fans can talk about, and it brings buzz to the league, to the sport, to anything. So that's the thing that I'm so on board for having this, because this is a missing piece that I don't think the league understands right now. That if they bring this out there and and it's not, I understand it's not up to just them. I'm sure this is up to a players association as well. But at the end of the day, everybody needs to understand is the more eyes on this sport, the more money will come into the sport. The players make more money. The owners make money. Everybody's happy. The fans get to see better lacrosse because there's a better product on the field because now everybody is, full-time professional lacrosse players. So with all that being said, I love it. And I think money doesn't get talked about enough is what my whole thing is anyway. And then we'll go to media rights, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to go through every team's coach and their GM. Then I'll do some rule stuff. We'll go into every PLL champion ever, which is only, not too many, obviously, but still. And then that'll be pretty much the episode. Okay. So that's going to be where we're at. And so let's get right into it. So let's get right into the news right away. Okay. So two big stories kind of came out this week. So, okay, so first off, we're going to talk about the Dawson Theede trade. This is an NLL trade, but I always said, I'm going to touch on whatever comes up throughout the week here. So Dawson Theede, this was so unexpected from me. I messaged Mr. Elliot Frickman or Ryan McMichael, and I said to him, dude, my jaw's broken from hitting the ground or hitting the floor. Like, you got to give me a heads up because of that shit. Luckily, he's a great guy. He was on my podcast, held the longest. Josh Mills and Lax Silly just broke this, but Frick held my most watched episode my most listened to episode on Spotify for a while, and he still currently holds my most watched episode on YouTube. But I think I got him at a perfect storm because he wasn't on the Loose Mesh podcast yet, right? Like, that podcast hasn't started, so I got him and Dawson on there before they started their podcast. So, but it's just funny. Love Elliot Frickman, man. Love Ryan. Ryan's a great guy, dude. I think he is the funniest character, and he's just hilarious guy. He's kind of he's definitely on the same boat with me where face-offs don't matter, and I love it. So anyway, when he dropped this trade, I was like, bro, what the fuck? I was shocked because I didn't have my phone. I was doing something else, and I didn't see it after, it was over an hour before I seen it, and I was just like, this is insane. So what's happening to Halifax? Honestly, I'll go into this on my next podcast more. They got so the Dawson. I guess I should tell you what they got back for him. I think everybody knows pretty much who would be listening to my podcast, but it would be Dawson Theede for first round 2028. That's the part that I thought was really weird because our boy Josh Mills, obviously he's going to be drafted that year, but the 2026, 2077 entry level draft, especially the 2027 entry level draft, is a special generational kind of draft from what I've been hearing, right? So when you see these kinds of drafts, this is why these picks are so important. So I was kind of thinking that Halifax would be trying to get one of those, especially with Trey Deere coming up here, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But I think Trey Deere and Halifax makes a lot of sense. So yeah. So anyway, I think that kind of would make a lot of sense. But obviously, we'll see where they're sitting and what they're looking at. But I think this is right now is their Halifax's window, so they need to go win. So to lose such a big force, he's got 11 goals this season already. He's not no slouch. You're gonna get a goal or two out of him every game almost. He had 2 bad games essentially in a row, or 2 bad weeks. Let's call it 2 bad weeks, right? And other than that, he I watched him this season for the opener in Halifax live. Is the one guy in my opinion that stood out the most to me out there, right? And he impressed me. So I think Oshawa win this right now, currently as it sits. They won the trade. Whether we'll see who won the trade down the road, because we don't know yet. It depends on how that draft pick ends up working out. But so this could go either way. I don't really like to say who won the trade at this point, but short term, definitely Oshawa got the better end of this deal short term. And if they can go and he can help them make a push, it's going to be interesting to see what he looks like tonight. And I think it's kind of what Oshawa needs, to be honest. They need somebody that's gonna no one's gonna fuck around with Oshawa now. I'll tell you that. I can guarantee you that. Theede is an animal. He's a beast, dude. So shout out to Theede too, Dawson Theede. He follows me on Instagram, so shout out to him. I'm getting more and more players to follow me. It's weird though, because it's funny because at the end of the day, I don't care who follows me. I'm gonna always just talk the way I see it. So I'll be respectful as always, as I always am. But just because a player follows me, if they have a not so good night, I'm not gonna not talk about them. Like, I don't care. Like, this is the thing. I'm gonna do it objectively. So I'm not going to do it in favor of anybody. So if you have an issue with that as a player, then would you get mad if somebody got mad at you because you played hard against another team? No. So that's all I'm doing. To me, I'm trying to break into the sports media thing, especially with the lacrosse. And it would be unjustified for me to not talk about these guys the way they play. So I said last weekend, I said Theede had a bad couple weeks. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I think he's an amazing player. And I think for him, the Oshawa move, I don't think it really matters that much. Oshawa already has their 3 guys, so he's a 4th, and that's exactly what he's a perfect 4th, 5th guy. He's gonna put up a goal to 2 goals a game, have a big nights here and there, and you know what else? You don't need him to do any more than that. And he's gonna be a physical presence for you. So for me, Oshawa all day won this trade right now, but like I said, it's hard to say they won the trade when it hasn't been like. It's hard to see what that draft pick will turn into. That draft pick could end up turning into the first overall pick that year. So like, and then who's coming up for that? We'll have to see at that point, because right now that's way too far off, I think, to place a full first, like a first round pick kind of deal, or first overall pick. So we'll see. Anyway, so that's just a little news on the Dawson Theede trade. Crazy. And then, okay, I would like to go over the Dawson or the Trey Deere situation going on right now. Now, here's what I'm going to say. I will say there's truth and facts that are out there right now, and then there's a lot of rumors going on right now. I am not going to speak on the rumors yet because I've learned my lesson off that first off. And actually, to be honest with you, I like Trey. I've talked to him, and he's a nice guy. He's an amazing player. I know a lot of people disagree with me, but from what I've seen, from the little amount of junior experience I watched Minto Cup for the first time. His team did not win last year, but I can tell you right now that those guys had him double covered and triple covered every fucking play, every time he had the ball, and he still was making things happen. So to me, that won me over with Trey. I'm a big fan of his. He also, like I said, I think he's a nice kid or nice guy, because he's not a kid, I guess, anymore, but he's a nice guy. And I've talked to him a little bit, right? He's, at the end of the day, I have not talked to him recently. This is a while ago. I did shoot him a message because I told him I was not going to talk about anything that wasn't public. He doesn't even message me back either. This is all just me saying I messaged him, and I told him that, first off, I said, I hope he heals up fast. So actually, let's start from the beginning here. So what's factual is that the coach has come out of the Syracuse, and he has stated that Trey Deere is injured and he's going to be out for the season. That's all we know. I think that's really all that's out there right now. And let's see. So Syracuse head coach Gary Gait confirmed that Trey Deere will miss the 2026 season, and the reporting around it ties to injuries in a car accident in Quebec. So a key detail here is the exact medical specifics have not been fully detailed publicly, at least in the reporting, at least in anything I'm seeing. But the big takeaway is simple. He is out for a year, and Syracuse has to reshape their offense without him, because he is a massive, massive piece for that offense. So, and he's still got 2 years of eligibility, I think, there. So it's going to be, or maybe 3. He might even have 3. I think he might only been a rookie. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that. But there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of rumors going on right now. I'm not going to touch on those yet. I do have heard noise. I'm not going to lie. I also sent that to Trey because I think that if there was something going on around me, around the internet, I think that I would want to know as well. So when I sent him my message saying, hopefully he gets better, this is what I've been hearing. I sent him the article I seen floating around. And then I asked him to respond. He has not messaged me back yet. I personally, if somebody asked me not to say anything, I wouldn't say anything. I'm going to be fully transparent to you guys. When all facts come out, I will address it and I will talk about it. Until that happens, I'm not going to address anything. All we know right now is Syracuse is out of, they're probably, from what I understand, their star player, or one of their star players for the season. And he's a guy you can't just go replace. Hopefully, we wish Trey the best recovery, the speedy recovery that he needs. And I hope this doesn't affect his lacrosse career for the rest of his life, because if it's a year out after a car accident, it must be something pretty major that's wrong with him, right? I'm hearing both his legs are broken. I will go to that rumor. That is a rumor. I don't know if that's true. Please understand that. That's what I've heard. Whether that's true or not, I'm not taking that fully. But if both his legs are broken, that makes sense why he'd be out the whole season. And so we'll see. So that's the only speculative part I will say. As far as the rest of it, we'll talk about that later down the road as it comes out. If it's true, if it's not true, hey, I hope Trey can come back strong and focus on lacrosse. You know what I mean? Because this kid is a special player. And like, I think that he was I think he was headed to be the face of the league, honestly, in my opinion. Just kind of like Lyle was for a while, and this kid is just massively talented. And like I said, like I've said before, we need that Gretzky, that Connor McDavid. We need that guy to sell the league in order to thingy. So actually, a good spot for Trey Deere, to be honest with you, would be like a San Diego, right? Keep growing that game out in Los Angeles there, because that's exactly what the NHL did, right? So if we can get it out in Los Angeles, people start caring about it there. It just kind of trickles down from there, right? So anyway, that's all I'm going to say on the Trey Deere situation. Again, we wish him the best and well, and he is a fucking fantastic player and a nice guy from what I've seen, everything that I've seen on him, and the interactions I've had with him personally, just online, super, super nice guy. So I hope for the best, and I hope for the best for him, and I hope all this rumors is just bullshit, because most people probably know what I'm talking about. I just don't want to go into it. So you will get my opinion when this is all over, though. When this is all when anything that comes out that's true, I'm going to address it. I don't care. All these media guys try to stay away from this stuff. I haven't heard anything about Trey Deere from any of these media guys. No hate. You're all involved in the leagues. You're all paid by different teams. I get it. You can't bring this cloud over to you. I can do it. I don't care, because at the end of the day, I'm going to report to the fans. I have to. It's part of it. If it's going around in the lacrosse community, I think it's my job to report on it. And this is a big story out of the lacrosse community. So we'll be talking about that more, I'm sure, as we go on. And again, love you, Trey. I wish you the best, buddy. So if the NLL is pro lacrosse in arenas, PLL is just pro lacrosse on the field, right? So pro field lacrosse. And obviously it's played mainly in outdoor stadiums. There are 8 pro teams. They play games on the weekend. They keep standings. They make playoffs, all that kind of stuff. And they crown a champion, just like every professional sports league. So the twist of the PLL is their touring model, which is, I don't know if I'm in love with this yet, but I want to watch a full season, and we're going to see. Really, I watch most of the games on TV, so to me, it really shouldn't even matter, to be honest with you. And I do understand for cost efficiency, it makes a lot of sense. The touring model means they don't play in their home city, every city. Everyone goes to one home location or one location every week, and basically the whole league travels together and plays a weekend in one city. Then the next weekend, they're going to another city, right? So it's interesting. It's definitely a very interesting thing. And the nice thing is, if you get to go to a live experience, you get to see a bunch of games. So that's really cool. Now, they do have home markets, which is where each team is supposed to represent, even though the schedule is still mostly tour-based. And that's the thing, like, should they be called the Boston Cannons, realistically? Unless this is just a temporary thing to get the league going, and then they're planning to do like the normal traveling thing around, which could be an option, right? So who knows? But right now they're doing it. So that's the thing. Should it just be called like the Cannons instead of the Boston Cannons? Or even maybe to get some sponsorships, you could call it like the Hershey Cannons, or the Pepsi, the Pepsi Polar Bears or something. Like, why would you? I think that would be kind of a cooler thing than representing a city you don't sit in, or you're not actually in. But I guess it does give that home, when they do the home weekends, it can be based around that team and really build that by that way. And I mean, cities always like to represent. I do. It's kind of interesting, but I don't know. I think it would be kind of cooler to see brands own those teams almost, or like different organizations. That's just kind of my take on it. But then again, here we go. They have a different system than that. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So the PLL launched in 2019 as a new field pro lacrosse built around a touring model and centralized league operations. So instead of every team being owned by a separate business, PLL runs more like an organized league business that controls things like league marketing, TV production, schedule building, and many parts of player operations. So structure is a major reason you can see consistency in broadcasting presentation, and a heavy focus on content, highlights, and social growth. Growth signals you can actually point to. The PLL has publicly pushed growth metrics like social impressions and engagement, has touted the record viewership, or has had record viewership and sponsorship momentum. Keep that in mind, because it connects directly to media rights and player pay, which we know that, right? The more impressions you get, money that will be brought into this league, the more advertising you can push out, all that kind of stuff. So we need to wrap our heads around that in the NLL as well, right? The NLL needs to wrap their heads around that. So why PLL tours, right? Production efficiency is a big reason here. So get set up broadcasting in one location every week. See if sponsors activate. So you don't have to do it 8 separate times and pay for 8 separate teams production. You could play for one production. So it lowers the cost of production. It's actually, for that reason, I understand what makes, and then because the PLL, from what I was reading so far and reading into, their player pay is, pretty decent, and so they're obviously pushing in the money that they could be putting into like operations back into the players. So it is interesting. It's an interesting take for sure. So market testing as well is another good one here. So you can drop into a city, measure ticket demand, see if sponsors activate, then decide whether to return. And that's actually a really good point too, because you could change like the Boston. I'm not saying this is, I don't know anything about this league yet, right? So you could take like the Boston Cannons though, for example, and then you could turn them into like the Boston Cannons to like the New York. I know there's a team in New York. I'm trying to give you an example, but like the Houston Cannons. So like really, realistically, you could move the team and it wouldn't be a big deal. It'd be like almost there's not the end of the world, right? I know Boston's got a pretty good fan base there, so I don't mean to be picking out the Boston Cannons as a thing, but I just that's the one team that always comes to mind when I think. So maybe that's good for that. Must show something to do with marketing that they've done for Boston Cannons because it's stuck in my mind, right? So and then league identity, the PLL sells itself as a traveling festival of lacrosse, not just 8 separate local teams. And that is interesting too, because then if you really like a team, there's no reason you have to be a Boston Cannons fan if you're in Boston. You could be a Utah fan if you're in Boston, because you're only going to see your team. You're going to see Utah come to Boston that same weekend that Boston comes to Boston. So that's kind of interesting too. So it is a kind of an interesting thing. I just don't know if I'm in love with it, but that's because this is the thing. The PLL right away, what I like about them is they're innovative. They think outside the box. They do things differently, and they're not stuck on the same thing. Do what works. But the problem is lacrosse isn't big yet, like these other sports are, so that you have to sometimes do things differently. And I like this. I like this a lot. And it's kind of got a bit like it's the same kind of feeling as banana ball, which I talked about banana ball before. I'm not even a huge baseball guy. I want to go see a banana ball game, and that's because the hype and the social media that's built behind that. That's kind of what the PLL is doing. And so, like, again, NLL, do something, copy this a little bit, maybe do something, I don't know. And especially if you're trying to compete against them, why not just do something like this with a G League over the summer where you chose a few different locations throughout the summer that you go test markets? Doesn't even need to be like Calgary, for example. It could be Edmonton for one. You could go to, you want to do one in Florida. Let's do a game in Florida. Let's do a game in Carolina. Let's do a game in Minnesota. Why not do that as a G League and do the same thing? Bring the 4 teams to those each locations, so you can keep the prices lower, right? So I don't know. Just again, I'm just spitballing. I don't really know. Sorry if I'm gonna reference the NLL a lot, but it's because that's where I come from. I'm definitely open to becoming just like hardcore PLL fan, maybe even like the PLL more. I'm not saying I won't do that, but I will probably pull it always back to the NLL because I do a lot of NLL content. Okay, so I will. It's coming though. The PLL content is coming. So one of the downsides of this is if you're a casual fan, it can feel weird because you ask, like, why does my team not play at home 6 times a year and in other leagues? And I also think, like, that's part of sports is it's, like, it kind of gives your city, like, pride. And that's why I think we should almost, in any of these things, all these teams are so focused on going to these major markets. But the thing, if you notice, like, what makes Buffalo special in the NLL, right? Buffalo, there's no other good sports teams there. There's no baseball there. The hockey team is absolute garbage, or they have been for so long. The football team was garbage for a long time, guys, okay? And they still had like the Canadian fans that fucking kept them going. But the Buffalo Bandits are they're a good team. They had the best player ever to play the game, and not just the best player, but multiple of the best players to ever play the game have played for the Buffalo Bandits. It's the same thing. So it's like, it kind of builds that community. So that's why I'm like big on trying to look at markets that maybe like has the population, but doesn't have other professional sport, because it gives them like kind of something to go out there and cheer for, and you don't have to be like, oh, do I go to a hockey game, or I do go to a lacrosse game, or do I go here, do I go there, right? It's hard to compete against that a little bit. People only have so much expendable money at the end of the day. So the PLL takes so there's home markets, obviously, right? So when the PLL talks about home markets, they're talking about the primary city identity for each club. So like the Denver Outlaws, the New York Atlas, the Utah Archers, Boston Cannons, and so on and so forth. So what does a home market do? This is the city's team this is obviously where the team represents from. This is where the local partnerships and fan identities get built. So I understand to a point why they're doing it. It does kind of build somewhat of an identity. And especially when it's a homecoming, those people are probably going to come out. And that's the thing, because the PLL is only going to these different markets. It's like when they do come, it's in a big, exciting event. You want to get out and see it, instead of being like, hey, if we don't go see this game Monday, or like, if we don't go to this weekend, I can always go next weekend. So again, I do respect the game. I do respect the hustle and the outside the box thinking. So yeah, so basically, like, they represent the city, right? So that's basically what they do. Okay. So the exact PLL. Okay, so I'm going to go through a quick calendar of what the PLL looks for. I did do this my last field podcast, but it was at the end. So we're going to go over it like this. So you got right off the bat, you have the championship series, which I think is brand new, which I'm going to go over. I'm going to go through here in a minute. We have the championship series. Okay. So it runs from February 27th to March 8th, 2026 at the St. James Springfield, VA. So Springfield, Virginia. A regular season opening weekend is May 8th to May 10th, 2026. It is in Utah, the Zions Bank Stadium in Harriman. So again, they're going to these smaller markets. They are doing what I just said too. 2026 season is built as an expanded regular season. So here's the actual tour stops of 2026. So you have May 8th to the 10th is in Utah. May 29th to the 31st is in Charlotte. June 12th to the 14th is in Minneapolis. June 26th to 28th is Chicago. July 10th to the 12th is New York. July 24th to the 26th is Boston. August 7th to the 9th is Denver. August 21st to the 23rd is Philadelphia. September 4th to the 6th, California. September 12th and 13th is the playoffs. And September 9th is the championship. So, okay, so the championship, there's the schedule for what we're going to look like at the PLL this season. I think I'm going to be going through this in a minute, but it's an interesting, like I said, it's very interesting, different take on it. And I mean, if they're able to make money in this league, which I don't know if they are, I haven't really looked into that much. It's interesting to see this format could work, right? So it's cool. Okay, so then so let's go into a deep dive into this championship series in the Olympic Sixes format. So the PLL Championship Series is a separate event, and for 2026, it is built around the Olympic Sixes format, connected to the lacrosse returning to the Olympics in LA 2028. So maybe this was a thing that they already had, but this is new for this. And I love this. I love how they're being innovative. I love how they're trying it. And I think, to be honest with you, I could see maybe the PLL making another side league as a sixes league, or even maybe transitioning to a sixes league, because they really, really love this style. And it's faster, shorter games. And for their touring model, it actually probably would work a little bit better. So I think, honestly, I could see this PLL on maybe transitioning to become a sixes league. That's speculation. Don't quote me on that. But it is I think it is you might see it slowly form out, because it's just a faster game. I just think that I do like it. I just think they need to if they just need to put a stoppage, like, please, if you're going to change anything, just one thing, just change the fact that you have to put a stoppage, or at least a thrown behind the net. That's the one thing that I think everybody that watches this sport they can compare it to, that actually agrees on that complaint about sixes. And I love it, I like sixes, but like, I just don't like that about it. So basically, what is it in plain words? It's fast, it's condensed, tournament with top teams involved, played at one venue across 2 weekends. So there's 4 teams in the this tournament. It's the 4 top teams from last year, essentially. So basically, this is changing how teams treat their off season. There was a specific player movement calendar update that created an earlier window tied into the championship series eligibility. So the championship series is not just extra games, it impacts rosters building and timing. So like this is, and it's going to give some players, maybe some guys, because a lot of these guys are still going to be playing the NLL that play on these teams. So I'm assuming some of these younger guys, or some of the deeper guys, are going to get the chance to shine and stuff like that. So it's going to give some more opportunity to people, and I love to see it. So I'll be definitely covering that. And so, now let's talk about money now, because everybody loves talking about money. Nobody does. And it's so funny, because it's like such a taboo topic. Even in real life, a lot of times, try to talk to money with somebody is like very taboo. I'm so weird. Like, I have an obsession with money, and not like to a sense that I need a bunch of it. It's more of like, I'm intrigued by how people do their finances. Like, different couples do their finances differently, right? Like for me and my wife share our bank account, right? It's just one bank account. Other people, they'll have like 3 bank accounts, one that they share, that bills come out of, and then one of their each. And I think everything works for everybody differently, but nobody likes to talk about money. And especially like with sports and players and stuff, it's like, it's hard to pry anything out of them. And it's obviously not like it's a players association that's doing this, so they don't want to say anything, because it's all about negotiation tactics and stuff like that. So it's interesting to see this, but money is a super important topic in life and in sports. And like I said before, with the money in sports, it's like, it's something to talk about. And like I said, if a player is getting paid twice as much as another player, and that player is not performing, you could kind of refer to that and be like, well, this is what this player is doing, and then he's making half as much but doing 3 times the work, so we're getting 3 times the points. So it kind of, and it gives a player kind of when another player signs at this, kind of gives them their option to be like, okay, well, I'm making this many points, so I should actually be up here by this much more than that other player. And it continues to raise the bar for all that kind of stuff, right? So it's just again, it's something more to talk about for media fans like myself, and for us to kind of understand the business side of this sport and how it all works out, right? So I'm gonna give you everything that's kind of out there for this for the salaries and all this stuff, and we'll just don't get me wrong, I think they deserve it, but that's not bad, right? To go play lacrosse, um, it's not too bad at all. So one of the things that I wanted to address was like, okay, well then if like let's say I think the cap from what I was reading was around like 700,000 or something. So like would that be you could basically pay like all your players like league minimum and then give like maybe like two or three guys like most of the money. And it's kind of hard. So, like publicly, what's described around PLL compensation is that it is structured and centralized, and cap rules have been discussed with requirements to spend most of the cap plus a minimum salary concept. So basically, like, these teams have to hit like try to get close to that cap hit. But I think so technically you could do whatever you wanted by the sounds of things though, right? So you could like if you wanted to, there's no like real max salary. Or it says so basically here's what it says. So the exact modern details like a true max salary ceiling per player are not consistently published in the one clean official public document I can point to or so that I found. What you see publicly is discussion of a minimums, cap framework, and structured compensation updates, right? So like it's what are these guys making? Who knows? It's still like kind of obviously things are under wraps, but basically you have a certain amount of cap and you got to have there's player minimums. And as far as that goes, as far as it goes like that, that's all we really know right now. So here's basically what they want. The league wants competitive balance. The league wants players paid at least a minimum. The league wants spending discipline. So it's not designed to be a one superstar gets everything. So basically, like I said, it's really I think they're trying to more by the sounds of things, they try to more like share the wealth, right? Kind of deal. I read like the cap was like 700,000, but I guess I think it's all more like kind of hearsay. And we're gonna go through the rosters and stuff here, but we'll see. Hopefully, this gets more transparent because this is basically, there is obviously some talk of it, but there's not much news out there. And I just think it brings more eyes to the sport and the eyes to like the rest of the game, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with that stuff. To be honest with you, talk about media rights for a minute, okay? The PLL has had an ESPN media partnership, and it has also announced an extension running through 2030. So they're going to be on ESPN for a while, and I think that's smart because that links them to like a brand, a strong sports brand, and they can hopefully keep growing the game that way. So, and do we know a dollar amount? In the reporting and announcements, financial terms are not presented as a public number. So I would like to see what that is. Are they having a media deal or is it more like a media agreement? I would assume it is a deal at some point. I just have to, with the numbers that they're producing that I've seen, I think that it makes sense. So they record viewership signals and year over year growth messaging, and they have strong evidence they have a strong audience performance around key windows like opening weekend. So obviously, hype windows, championship windows or championship weekends and playoffs probably, as well as the opening stuff. They would obviously, it'd be hypey and they're going to have their viewership numbers going to go up. So, and I know their numbers are pretty decent. And that's what I think again, I'm going to go back to the NLL here for a minute. I wish the NLL would do this. They would post the numbers that are what is out there because it'd just be nice to know this stuff, right? That's where I'm at with it. As a fan, I would love to know all this number. I'm a big numbers guy, and I know there's other people that are like this, especially like a Graham Perro. Like I guarantee you, he would eat that stuff up for like it would be amazing. Just give it, even if you don't want to give him to the public, just give him to Graham Perro, okay? And he'll deal with the rest. He'll organize them for you, and he is a freaking honorable guy. So if you tell him not to put something out, he's not going to. He's not that kind of guy. I love Graham. Graham's such a great guy, man. Anyway, so let's go over all the teams, like GMs or coaches and stuff like that. So we got the Boston Cannons. You have Brian Holman. Holman is a high-level coach with deep NCAA experience, including coaching in Utah and previously at North Carolina, and he's been a part of a major programs at the college level. He tends to build structure and identity that show up in how teams defend and how they manage pace. So very old school coach, obviously, and pretty respected. I think a lot of these guys are. So New York Atlas is Mike Pressler has been a major college figure, the long tenured at Duke and Bryant, and he's with long tenures at Duke and Bryant, and he's tied to the high level coaching success across decades. So again, a veteran coach that's been around the game for a long time. And he's known for system coaching and building complete rosters as well. So, all these teams are obviously vying for to win the championship. Utah Archers, you have Chris Bates. Bates is a longtime college coach, including leading roles at Drexel and Princeton, and he's been deeply connected to field development for years. So another guy, it's like all these guys are just going to have high pedigrees. So Philadelphia Water Dogs, so you have Bill Tierney and is the coach, and the GM is Dave Cottle. And I know that the Barstool Boys do own part of this team, but I don't exactly know how that works. So Tierney is one of the most decorated coaches in lacrosse with championship and long runs at Princeton and Denver. And he was named head coach and GM of the Water Dogs in 2024. Cottle was later named GM for roster management with a Hall of Fame L-level NCAA coaching resume at Loyola. Oh my God, I can't say this. Loyola. I know that's not right, but we're going to call it that. Loyola, Maryland. And the Denver Outlaws, Tim Suden. Suden has a pro and coaching background and has been tied to the PLL coaching roles for years, including leading the Chrome identity before the Denver branding era. Maryland Whipsnakes is Jim Stagnita. Stagnita has a long coaching career across pro lacrosse spaces, and he's been a major part of Whipsnakes' identity for the early PLL era. And you got the Carolina Chaos, the league's own communications and major coverage have discussed chaos in the top tier recently, including in context of championship series qualifications for 2026. And yeah, I know they're big on the chaos. I've heard a lot about the chaos actually now that I'm reading it. California Redwoods coaching and GM note, and this is Will from Trail Park Sports Network's team showed it. That guy, awesome guy there. So Joe Spallina was named Redwoods GM after Nat Saint Laurent stepped down, and at the time that reporting a new head coach was not yet named. If a new head coach has been named since then, it would be in a newer PLL announcement. So I'm not really sure what's going on with there, but obviously they're going to have to get a head coach in there sooner than later, I would assume. So we got the Denver Outlaws. Give me a rundown of what each team kind of is standing for. So you guys tell me how close this is. And obviously I'm going to make my own assumptions. I always take these with a grain of salt, and so should you. I'm going to go give you an identity for each team that ChatGPT gave me, and I'm going to give you an X factor that ChatGPT gave me for each team. So Denver Outlaws, we have speed, transition, and athletes as their identity, and their X factor is the elite faceoff and midfield pressure. And then the New York Atlas, you have their identity is aggressive offense and big time creators. And then X factor is the defense that can turn stops into instant offense. And then you have the Utah Archers. You have their identity is disciplined, system heavy, and championship mindset. And their X factor role has two-way midfield dominance. And then you got Maryland Whipsnakes. You have structured, veteran, and balanced is their identity factor. Boston Cannons. You have their identity is physical, direct, and hard-nosed, which makes so much sense for Boston. And then you have the X factor rule is close defense that forces low-quality shots, which is important, man. That's a big thing. Then you have the Philadelphia Water Dogs, pretty adaptable and coach hard. And then you have their X factor is coaching-led adjustments. Coaching-led adjustments came to the game, so obviously very well coached, which is their X factor, which is interesting. Then you have Carolina Chaos. Their identity is chaos ball and momentum swings. X factor role is specialist, including goalie-driven runs. And then finally, California Redwoods, you have historically defense-first roots, and you also have roster strategy under new GM direction. So let's just run through some rules real quick, okay? A couple things that were pointed out. The PLL has a 2-point arc, which I don't know if I'm in love with that, but it is what it is. We're going to see as we watch more of it. I'm going to keep an open mind. Shot clock, obviously, that's just the same. And then it says a very broadcast-friendly flow to keep the action up, which I find it, like I said, the more I watch it, the more I really do enjoy it. But I do find it's very, like somebody said this to me, like you can turn your back, talk to your buddy, turn back around, and then you're not going to miss a big play if you do it at the right time kind of deal. But if in box, that's not the same thing, right? So obviously then you also have the championship series, which is the Sixes style. It's completely different. And that's going to be exciting to see too, because we have to start opening our minds to that, because that is going to be the Olympic way. And I can't wait to watch Canada take that home. And we are on board with Haudenosaunee being in that. I think it's going to be ridiculous if they're not, and they need to get them in there. I don't care what you have to do to get them in there, but they need to get in there. Please get them in there. It's not right if they're not in the 2028 Olympics, especially with the kicker of all this is it's in LA and this is First Nation land at the end of the day. And it just it will not be right if the fucking Haudenosaunee is not in 2028 Olympics. I'm going to tell you right now. But either way, I still will be riding with Canada, obviously. but I would love to see Haudenosaunee win that. I think that'd be super cool too. For Haudenosaunee to win the first time lacrosse has been in the Olympics forever, really cool. But I do think that if, from what I can look at from the rosters right now, it's going to be a battle, man. And Haudenosaunee, when they brought their sixes tournaments, they brought a lot of their young guys up and trying to give them that international level where Canada has brought, in the States, have brought more of their guys that are like, okay, these are the stars of the show, go get them. For Haudenosaunee, a lot of times they'll bring a couple like kind of current guys, but they'll more bring their young future generations to get used to playing to this style of game and to try in the Olympics. And Haudenosaunee's not in it. I just don't find that you don't really, did you even really win the gold? Like realistically, it just doesn't. It's like a takeaway. It's like Russia in hockey, and it's the same thing as this, different scenarios, but still the same level of like, are you actually the best in the world? Is your country actually the best in the world? Because the natives consider like they're a sovereign nation. So they are, as much as they're like, you're in Canada, you're in the States. I love that. Obviously, everybody's Canadian. Everybody who lives in the States and American. But when you're a native and you're technically your sovereign nation, and so that's, if you want to represent that nation, that's, I think, in my opinion, that's, I completely understand. With that being said, I would love if they don't, for some reason, if Haudenosaunee doesn't get to play in the Olympics, I would love the guys that were born on Six Nations in Canada, I would love for them to come play, be eligible to play for Canada, but also like be willing to play for Canada, because I know that's kind of a sore spot for a lot of people. Anyway, I digress with all that. So, okay, so let's run through the quick championships real quick here too. Okay, so the championships, Ireland won in 2019 and 2020. 2021, Carolina Chaos won. Phil Water in 2022, Philadelphia Water Dogs won. Utah Archers won 2023, 2024, and then New York Atlas won 2025. So a little bit of couple teams won twice already, and it's interesting to see that they didn't have a COVID year. They didn't have a COVID break. You see, everyone's still alive. No, I'm just kidding. That's, no, we're not getting into that. But anyway, it's nice to see like they, it's still young. There's still obviously teams that haven't won yet, and I mean, Utah's going to be, or the New York Atlas with Jeff Theede over there is going to be hard to stop if he's going back there this season, which I'm assuming he is. So let's go look at their site. Let's go look at their site. Okay. So now we got the site up. Okay, let's just run through some of this stuff. So first off, like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I really like the PLL site. Like the NLL could learn off this. The site's already better. I can already tell it's smoother the way it is. So let's go into the championship series first. So we already went over like the schedule and stuff, but you have 4 teams for the championship series. You have Denver Outlaws, New York Atlas, and California Redwoods, and Carolina Chaos playing this thing. And it is, and we got the Women's Lacrosse League return. So the Women's Lacrosse League, WL, is back for the second season of the championship series, bringing the best women players in the world to St. James once again. After a historic debut in 2025, North and the Boston Cannons return to defend their title in the fast-paced Olympic sixes format. 4 elite teams will go head-to-head over 2 weekends, competing for 2026 WLL Championship Series trophy. Experience speed, skill, and intensity of the game's brightest stars. You got Boston Guard, California Palms, Maryland Charm, and New York Charging. And so you got a round robin. So you got February 27th to March 6th. Teams play a series of games to determine playoff seeding. The top 3 teams move on. Semifinals, second place plays third. First place gets a bye. Championship, which is March 8th. Winner of number 2 and 3 play number 1 to be crowned champion. And it's Olympic style lacrosse. Same style. That's same lacrosse. Sorry, same style is what's going to be in LA 28, and this is the 4 sports fastest format, which I have to agree with. Every player plays both ways. Every second matters, and every position has a chance to flip the game. And so they have higher stakes. A missed shot goes out of bounds, automatically goes to the other team. It's never more important to take care of the ball. More shots. The 30-second shot clock keeps the pace of play fast. There's more scoring than any other discipline of lacrosse, and faster tempo. After every goal, goalie clears the ball to start play right away. No waiting, no face-offs at all. Action. I hate that. I don't care. We need a stoppage. Okay, the PL is doing a great job, don't get me wrong with this, and I like the structure. Just one question though, like you're so good at commercialization. I know it's not your style per se, but it basically is. Why is there no stoppage? Don't you want commercialized? How are you supposed to show a highlight for this? Because that's what I was finding out. You're not getting to see the highlights. If you just stop it with a face-off, you'd have time to highlight it. So basically, the draft will be in early May. So what I just looked up. So what do we got? We got PLL Nation here. So the most exciting, most rewarding way to be a fan. Unlock PLL rewards as you level your fandom. Oh, this is awesome. This is amazing. PLL Nation End of the Year Awards. So, well, 2025 PLL fans join PLL Nation to complete and celebrate their fandom. Top supporters took it to the next level to earn the annual End of the Year Awards. Congratulations to the winners. Get ready to watch, play, yeah, blah, blah, blah. So fuel your fandom. PLL lets you build fan status and rewards as you level up your fandom. PLL A nation should be mandatory for all fans. Access daily challenges, complete with other fans, and earn badges, reward. This is kind of cool. So turn passions into perks, unlock exclusive perks as a member, and earn new rewards every time you level up your fan status. So you can do deals and discounts, VIP upgrades, and member exclusives. So click badges and reward for each milestone you reach as a fan. And then so join for free, level up, and rank up in rewards. So that's cool. So I'll definitely be joining this up in a second here. Okay, so that's kind of cool, the PLL thingy there. So I'll definitely be signing up for that. PLL Play. So let's go home. What's PLL Play? So the future of professional sports. View schedule. Training and development. So they have PLL Academy, PLL tournaments. Oh, wow. This is really cool. This is exactly what the fucking NLL needs. Holy, this thing, they have PLL Academy, PLL Juniors, tournaments, PLL Junior Championships. I'm going to go into this a little bit deeper later. I'm not going to bore you guys with this stuff because this is just me. They have all their stats here, guys. They have all their stats here. They have fantasy. Like, they have it all, dude. I'm going to have to go through this a little bit deeper, honestly. But let's just go through teams here. So then on top of that, they have a teams thing. And that they got a bunch of subcategories. So they got the schedule, they got the roster, they got the stats. Like if I go to the stats, error. So that's an error. Okay. So that's a little bit of a red flag. But anyway, let's see the rosters. And they have a shop. Let's actually, you know what? Oh, I'll look at that in a minute. So they have the rosters. Yeah, okay. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I think I'm going to wait. I'm going to save. I think we'll go into a deep roster dive on the next podcast because honestly, going through that website for a little bit. Maybe I'll save that for next week. We'll walk it through the college lacrosse. I'll do a big PLL deep dive, website deep dive this time. I hope this was enough information for you guys. And I hope that this was a deep enough dive for you. If there's anything you want to see in my next field podcast, please put it in there. As always, if you're still listening at this point, I really appreciate you. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you like about this stuff. Tell me what you don't like. Tell me what you want to see in these, especially my commenters, the comments. I really do try to squeeze whatever ideas you have in here. And again, we'll see as I go on here. If I can start getting some field interviews, I'll start putting people who play field in maybe these podcasts as well. But I do find until I am monetizing, and this is my full-time gig, I'm not going to be able to do 2 interviews a week. It's just so much to put out 2 podcasts a week is a lot. Like even today, I'm late. Usually put it out Thursdays. It's Saturday. There's not as much urgency because the season hasn't started, but like next week with college going to be starting next weekend, I think is the first fishing games or whatever. I definitely am going to have this up Thursday next week. So we'll be more structured as of going forward, but I've had the luxury of not having to rush these field podcasts. So with that all being said, guys, I just want to say thanks for coming. Thanks for listening to me ramble about this. I'm enjoying doing these. I'm learning a lot. With all that being said, thanks for coming. And my name is Jake McDonald. I am Anything Lacrosse, and this is a game that never sits still. And we will talk to you guys next time. Have a good one.